boys and girls, ladies and gents. Welcome to another episode of Clutch Conversations. My name is Mike, co-owner of Herp Collectors, and we are live. Welcome to the second episode of our podcast, Clutch Conversations. We're still getting our bearings around the whole process, so please bear with any mistakes. Last week's episode was actually super amazing, and I'm really super excited about this episode as well. We've got a very special guest. We've got a really cool person who's been super helpful uh, with me throughout any questions that I've had. And without further ado, I want to welcome Summer Mitchell from Canova and Girls with Scales.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. So introduce yourself and tell the people about what you do.
So, my name is Summer. I am from Georgia. I'm in my late 20s and I'm a reptile keeper, and then I also work for Canova doing sales and marketing, social media type stuff there. So,
Okay, pretty cool. Yeah, we'll dive a little deeper into that in a little bit. So I remember watching one of your videos, and you mentioned that your mom helped you with reptiles. I imagine everyone in your family is not a reptile person. So reintroduce yourself and describe how those non-reptile folks would describe what you do.
okay, so yeah, I think most of the people actually are really accepting of it. My family is very animal oriented. Like my grandma was a dog breeder, a horse trainer, um, animal trainer of like weird exotic things. Like everybody in my family is just really animal open minded. They don't
Mhm.
all love snakes, but I think they all kind of get what I do, weirdly enough, even though it is a strange job. They think it's weird that there's somebody out there that like hired somebody to make snake videos, but they oops, sorry. But they
No worries.
I think they understand. So the thing that I think they don't understand is really just why I really like snakes so much. Sorry. But you know, again, it's like why do you like guinea pigs? Why do you like anything? We like what we like. So
All right,
I
no,
try
hundred
to
percent,
make it casual,
hundred
but
percent. Speaking of why you like snakes, what got you into reptiles?
so I've always had, like I said, I've always had a bunch of different animals. I mean, we had emus, we had horses, every kind, just random stuff. And so my mom had boas when I was little. So I always had snakes in the house. Not that they were mine, but they were always just there. So it was never weird. And I had never, I think a lot of people have like a fascination with them when they're really
Mhm.
young. Like you hear everybody talk about how they're like, oh, I love dinosaurs, or I used to go out and like catch stuff. And I really didn't have that when I was very young. I just had it kind of normalized. And then when I was 11, I went to the pet shop with my mom, just a local mom and pop store. And it was right around my birthday. And she said, do you want to get a pet for your birthday? And I said, sure. And they had just had like a litter of boas come in. And so she was like, well, what if you want to get a little baby boa? And so I was like, sure. So I got one and she was like, well, if you're going to get this, you need to be the one to like do the research and all that. So I was like, okay, I will. So I went home and I got on the internet and I got on all the forums. This was in like 2003 or 2004. So
Okay.
I was just all over the very slow internet, trying to research
Dial up.
these animals. Yeah. And that's where I started. And once you get on the internet and start talking to other people on the internet about snakes, we all know it goes downhill from there. So
Right, no, 100%, 100%. So, say hello to a couple of our guests. Welcome, Phil. Thanks for coming out.
what's up, Phil?
Oh, Devil Ball Pythons. Thanks for coming out. Nicole, how's it going? Thanks for coming out. So, what's your favorite childhood memory about reptiles?
So it's probably not a good one to be telling, but I'm gonna tell it anyway.
Uh oh, let's hear
My
it.
I'm so I had this boa, right? This very first boa that I got. And so I'm 11 at this point, and I've had the boa maybe 6 months or something, and it ended up escaping. It got out of its cage. We've all been there. And we couldn't find it. Just, could not find it. And so I kind of, expected to maybe never find it. And so, I was just kind of trying to go on with my life, and I had my cousin over to spend the night. And, we're having a slumber party. She's like 12 or 13, and we're sleeping in my bed, and she rolls over and the snake is next to her on the pillow.
How big is it at
And
this point?
it's not, I mean, it's a baby boa. Like I said, it was maybe 6 months old. It was not very big, but she is one of my family members that is not a snake person, does not understand the appeal, and she has never let me live that down. So, she got some we got some, little girl squeals out of that experience, and I found my snake, which is why I was excited. I was like, "Hey, listen, I don't care if you're scared. I got my snake back. This is great."
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. So we've had one escapee so far. We
Yeah.
had
You
a
know how
we had
how
a
it happened?
so we have a zebra jungle carpet python, and we had her in a tub, and we didn't think she could get out, but apparently she could get out through the very
How it always
small of a
goes.
slit.
Yeah.
Like I was so surprised she could get out because I went in there one day to check on her, and I was like, where is she? And so I'm moving the hides and everything, and I can't find her. I was like, oh, she's gotten out. And so she was missing for maybe a week, 2 weeks tops. What I did was I set out a container that some rodents were in, and I was hoping she was going to eventually get hungry and find that container. And that's exactly what happened. Like I said, like a week or
Really?
two
That worked
later, I found
awesome.
her. Yeah, I found her on
Yeah.
that container, and I was able
Wow.
to get her. And so we had to
That's
modify.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was happy because I was worried. I didn't want to lose her. At that point, we had only had her maybe a month,
Yeah.
maybe a month.
It's
Yeah, and
when they're small, especially, they can squeeze themselves in ways that you cannot fathom. Like, you're like, "How did you get your head through this?" But yeah,
are you
it's
serious?
crazy. Well, I'm glad you found her, and I hope that that is your only escape. I haven't had an escape in a long time. Knock on glass. I'm on a glass table, but yeah, it's always super stressful.
Yeah, let's keep up that trend. Gen Z reptiles, thanks for
What's up,
coming out. Welcome to the
Jinsey?
show.
I got to hang out with them at Arlington a few weeks back, and there's some cool kids. They taught me about TikTok, so
Okay, yeah.
go.
So they need to teach me about TikTok. We've
I
got a
know.
TikTok, but I'm not a TikToker.
Too
We've got
I'm
like
too
maybe four or
old.
five videos, and I
Yeah,
just I'm not there
I
yet.
know.
Maybe one day.
I'm
Maybe one
I'm
day.
trying. I wanna stay young and stay cool.
Yeah, I definitely got to get hip on the game. Bulldog, thanks for coming out. Welcome to the show. So, what all animals do you keep now?
So I've got, mostly Moralia, so carpets, and I have Brettles too, and then I have rough scales, and then I've got super dwarfs, a pair of them from Reach Out Reptiles, so
Hmm.
super dwarf retics, and then I have a one random California king snake.
Okay.
She's my she's my like junkyard snake that somebody like just like bestowed upon me. So, but I
Okay. Do
love
you
her.
have a favorite
She's one of
species?
my best animal. That's a very loaded question.
It's
Um,
tough.
my favorite species of all snakes is Boelen's pythons, and I
Okay.
say that, yeah, every time I say that I feel like a poser, but I do work with them at work, and they are an incredible species. Beautiful, everything about them is incredible. Their beauty, their personality, their natural history. But in terms of what I keep, probably my favorite from a coolness factor, like this is a cool animal, is the rough scale python. My
Okay.
favorite to interact with is the super dwarf retics.
Okay. Okay. And you've got how many super dwarfs?
I've just got a pair. Yeah, just
Okay.
one pair. I've got a male and female.
Okay. And so, are you planning on breeding those at some point?
Yeah, down the line, my oldest, those two are still really young. Like one of them's a 2021 and the other one's a 2022 or a 2020. So I've got a 2020 and a 2021. So they're years out from being able to breed, but I would like to breed them. And then everything I have pairs of everything except for the king snake. So I should be able to hopefully breed some of these down the line. I've got a couple that are getting close to the age, but when I say close, they still need like another year or two because the oldest animals I have are
Mhm.
also animals that take the longest to reach breeding age. So it's not really working
Gotcha.
out for me. I'm just keeping
Gotcha.
having to wait.
It's all about patience, so it'll be well worth the wait.
Yeah, and I wanna grow I grow my stuff up pretty slow, I'm not in a hurry, you know what I mean? I
Right.
don't have much room in my current house anyway, I need to move first before I have any baby snakes, so I'm fine with waiting and just enjoying the animals and kinda learning about them before I jump into producing anything.
100%. That's the best route to take. So, what do you think people misunderstand most about reptiles? You spoke a little bit earlier about your relative that was like completely anti-snakes. So why do you think that is?
Well, I just think that people are afraid of the unknown. And I think we have so much exposure in our daily lives to mammals and creatures like that, like, like hamsters, dogs, cats. That stuff is very, very normalized. And then, we also have all the farmyard, like old McDonald. Like, when we're kids, we learned about all the farm animals. So, like, there's just some animals that we grow up knowing more about, and they're not as other, and
Right.
reptiles, unfortunately, are just not for most people in that category. For me, they kind of were. I grew up and it was no different than having any of the other pets I had, but a lot of people, that's not the case. They may never even get to see a snake in real life until, they go to a weird pet shop when they're 13 or something, you know what I mean? So, I think it's just a lack of exposure, and then also the I mean, it kinda goes back to, like, olden, like, Christianity, like, there's so many factors, you know what I mean? Like, people think snakes are evil because of the
Right.
Bible, and we also have a natural fear of them because of venomous snakes, that's kind of
Exactly.
ingrained into a lot of our biology, so I think there's a lot of stuff stacking against reptiles, unfortunately,
Yeah, so we
and
thought
that
they were
just causes
poisonous.
people. Yeah, I think it
We
just
thought they were
causes
poisonous
people to
back in the day.
be.
Poisonous
Right,
instead of
oh,
venomous.
yeah. So we're gonna eat them and get poisoned, yeah. But no, I just think it really comes down to a lack of knowledge, and I've done some educational programs, and it's just so amazing to see how open-minded kids really are, and even the most closed off child by the end of the educational program will be touching the snake and thinking it's cute and all the stuff that we think about all other animals once they're exposed to it. So I really think that's where it starts, is just getting people exposed, and when you're not exposed, or worse, when you're exposed in an adversarial way, like either you have a parent that doesn't like them, so they talk badly about, they put negative impressions in your mind,
Right.
that's where it gets bad, and then you get adults that don't like the animals or have no appreciation for them.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. You touched on a good point in terms of the exposure because thinking back as a kid, I didn't have any exposure to snakes, and
Mhm.
like you said, there were like all the cool songs, all the happy songs about all the other animals, and you talked about all these other animals, but I don't ever remember like any good stories about snakes, really.
No,
And so
yeah. So we need some people writing some children's books or something about,
we got to
like,
change the narrative.
Steve the snake going to work or whatever.
We got to change the
Putting
narrative.
on a
Absolutely,
snake sock.
100%. Dobie's excited. Kimber, what's
What's
up?
up,
Thanks for coming
Dobies?
out. All right. So, give us a little background about Girls with Scales, kind of how you came up with that concept, and what are your plans for Girl with Scales?
So honestly, it really started from a standpoint of me having an obsessive personality. And I was at a point where I had just moved out of my parents' house and I could get back into reptiles. I went through a phase when I was in middle school where I had a ton of animals and I was really big on the forums and really active in obsessed with reptiles. And then, just life changes. My mom got remarried. We moved a bunch. I had to get rid of a lot of my animals, but I always had one or two. And then when I moved out on my own, I realized, hey, wait a minute, I can have whatever I want now. So the first thing I did was like go literally like that, like a month after I got my own place, I went and got a snake. And I already had one snake. Actually, I had a snake and a lizard. I went and got another snake. And I was like, I got bit by the bug again because I realized, "Oh, wait, I can do what I want. I'm a grown up." And so, I just that was all I was thinking about, all I was planning about, all I was posting on my Instagram about was my snake, and a lot of people that I know in real life are not into that and don't wanna see me posting snakes all the time. So I was like, "Well, I'll just make a separate Instagram where I can post my snakes." and my lizard, and like I'll make a reptile Instagram so that way I can fulfill all my desires to post all these pictures and I don't have to like flood my personal feed. So that was really where it started from, was just kind
Gotcha.
of like my own personal Instagram was being taken over by snake pictures. So I was like, I got to do something with this.
Gotta separate.
Um yeah, and so then from there, the name and all that came from, like I said, when I was a kid on forums, I used that name, Girl with Scales, among other
Okay.
names, which I won't mention because I don't want somebody to look them up and find my old posts. That was one of the usernames I used that for a time. So I was just like, I'll keep it easy and stick with that. And then from there, as that grew and I started posting more pictures of my snake, I get more into the community, building relationships with people. People start to learn your animals and your collection. And that led me to deciding to branch out and start doing the YouTube videos as well.
Gotcha. So are you planning to turn Girls with Scales into a company, or have you thought about it that far out?
So it's a little tricky. I would love to build it and keep growing it and
Mhm.
do more with it. That's on me to actually post content regularly, which I currently fail at. But I blame so it's actually not true. I post tons of content all the time. I just don't post it on my channel. So I have to struggle with the work-life balance in the sense that my work is creating reptile videos and
Gotcha.
pictures and social media. And so then when I come home, I don't always want to be doing that because that's what I've done at work all day. So that's caused me to have some lulls in production of my own stuff. But I do have some things in the work. I want to start getting on at least like a twice a month basis to post videos. And really, I
Mhm.
don't have, I mean, if I could like earn a little side money or something on that, that'd be great. But I'm not trying to quit my job and be girl with scales. But I like having an outlet for my animals and my more specific interests because my interests in the reptile world are not directly, they're not all ball pythons. So I like to
Gotcha.
share the stuff that I really am passionate about there.
I feel you on that. Like, I don't want to do my day job at nighttime. Like, people are like,
Right.
I'm an accountant by day, and people are like, "Oh, why don't you do taxes and stuff like that?" Well, A, I don't do taxes, and then
Right.
B, if I did do taxes all day, I wouldn't want to come home at night and do taxes 2 minutes
Right.
back. Like, that's
Yeah,
too
it's like
much.
just not. Yeah, it's just too much. And I'm really lucky in that I actually like truly do enjoy my job. I mean, obviously I love I mean, like I said, it is something that I do for fun.
Mhm.
Before I even had that job, I would make YouTube videos and post about my reptiles or whatever. But it does just you can only do something for so long before like you need a mental break to focus on something else. So
Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. No matter how much you like doing math, when you come home, you don't want to do
Right.
more
You
math.
don't want to do it.
So
Not unless you're on Morph Market on the
yeah,
calculator.
or the calculator, trying to figure out
Right.
your next clutch.
Raul, how's it going? Thanks for coming out.
What's up, bro?
Jay Hill, how's it going? Thank you for coming out.
True. Tough
So
balance.
that's a great segue into our next question. So give us a little bit of background on how you ended up at Canova.
Yeah. So essentially, my former career was I was a dance and music teacher, and I still actually do teach one class a week just because I love it. I was doing that, and it's a night job. I loved that job. I love kids. I love the arts, but it was a night job, and my fiance works during the day like a normal person. So it was just getting it just yeah it just wore on me over time to be never able to do anything in the evenings. Like I wouldn't have been able to do this podcast. I wouldn't have been able to go get drinks with a friend. I only saw my fiance for like an hour before I was passed out on the couch asleep. It wore on me over time. And so I also was at a point in my life where I was just, getting out on my own and all that and could use extra money. So Justin posted on Facebook. I'm local to him, so I'm in a Georgia reptile Facebook group, and he posted in there that they were looking for somebody to clean cages, that they'd lost their cage cleaner when they moved to their new facility and they needed to find somebody to take it over. So I thought, well, I work at night. I could go in the morning and clean cages theoretically. I was like, oh, I'll just send an email, like tell them, hey, here's a little bit about me, and see what happens. I really didn't think anything was going to happen. I thought a million people are going to do this, and I'm not going to, but I just kind of did it on a whim. And lo and behold, I got an email back. And lo and behold, I got an interview to go talk to him and see him in person. And lo and behold, I got the job. So I started cleaning the cages part-time, but doing that part-time meant I was doing a full-time job and then a part-time job. So it was a
Wow.
lot. I tend to overcommit myself. So
Same here.
so yeah, so I did that for like 9 months and I really enjoyed it. It's a dream. When I was a kid, I dreamed of being a reptile breeder. I had a website. I bought a domain name and hired a web designer and made my own reptile company when I was 12, and I had a website for it. I've unsuccessfully bred leopard geckos one time. I lost all the eggs. But, that was what I wanted to do. And so to get to work for a big reptile breeder and kind of see how it all worked was, a dream for me, even if I was just cleaning poop and changing waters. But but it just wore on me, the scheduling, and I ended up, having to quit just because I couldn't keep up doing multiple jobs like that. So
Mhm.
I quit there. And then about a month later, Justin reached out to me and asked if I could help just with like posting on Instagram and like helping him keep track of the Instagram messages from home. And I was like, sure, that
That's
shouldn't,
pretty
a
cool.
couple,
Yeah.
an hour a day or whatever. That's fine. I'm on the internet all the time anyway. So I started doing that. And then from there, he asked, well, could you edit some photos for me? So I was like, sure. So then from there, he asked, well, what do you think about helping me update my website? I was like, sure. And then it was like, well, could you help me film some videos? And then it was, well, could you edit the videos? And then at that point, I was doing basically the part-time job again, but it wasn't cleaning cages. It was all this other kind of social media, internet media
Right.
stuff. And then he offered me a full-time position. So at that point, I was like, I've got to do one or the other. I cannot again, I couldn't keep doing both. And at that point I was like, well, if I have the opportunity to go full-time and it's something that I really enjoy, I feel good at, I'm creative with, I like, and I don't have to work at night anymore.
Mhm.
So I went for it. And so I quit my other job and I went for to work with Justin. And that was about over a year ago now that I started that full-time position. So yeah, that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now that you're working full time with Canova, what's your weekly routine look like there? Besides answering my
It
emails and
totally
messages.
depends. Yeah. 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 So it varies a lot because Justin does go out of town a lot, and so sometimes I might go into work or not go into work and work from home depending on whether or not he's going to be there. Because we're always trying to make sure we get time to film for the week. But a typical week would look something like I go in on Monday. First thing we do is always check emails. On Mondays, we also are checking for shipping weather. So we are reaching out to everybody who needs an animal shipped. Chase will do that. He'll figure out the temps and who's good to ship, and then I'll communicate with the people and tell them, hey, we can ship. What day works for you? Or we can't ship. All that stuff. Go through the inbox, which often can take a long time, especially after the weekend. Um, and then on Mondays, I like to, since we put out videos on Wednesday and Friday, Mondays, I like to do something else. I like to like edit clutch photos or something like that. If we have something like that to do, I'll edit clutch photos. Um, and then also I will take care of like sometimes like helping out in the special projects room with the Bolins and the retic and the black dragon, like making sure they're all fed and watered. And well, I don't feed Chase feeds the snakes. I feed the lizard.
Okay.
So Monday
How
I
many
kind of
Bolins are there?
there's 2. Yeah.
There's two. Okay.
So I kind of think of Monday as kind of like, in a way, catch-up day, sort of. It's kind of just like getting a bunch of stuff done before you have the rest of the week to do all the other stuff. So Monday I try to get like everything else that I have to get done before the things that I have to get done for like YouTube. So then Tuesday is when we will usually film a video. Or sorry, Monday afternoon we'll usually film a video. That way I have all day Tuesday to edit it. And so most of my day Tuesday will be spent editing, but I'll also be answering emails. And then Wednesday, we upload the videos. So usually my morning is spent. So this might surprise people. We don't have anything in the backlog, like really ever. So every now and then we do, and it'll be like the best like 3 weeks of my life where like we'll have like videos ahead of time and I'm not like
Uh-huh.
scrambling to get them done. Usually like tonight after I finish this, I'm going to be finishing up editing a video Then tomorrow morning, I'll work on the thumbnail and I'll get it uploaded, and then it'll go live at noon. So like tomorrow's video is not even finished yet. So generally that's how it goes. So generally I'm working on the video the day before. I get it done that night and uploaded. And then the next morning, so Wednesday morning, I'll get the thumbnail done and I'll get the description and all that stuff done. All the little promo stuff that has to happen. We release the Wednesday video, and then the second half of Wednesday is kind of like Monday, where I can kind of do random things. Then rinse and repeat. Wednesday, at the end of the day, we film a video, and then Thursday, I edit the video. Friday is kind of like Wednesday with all the putting the video up.
Mhm.
And then Friday is also the day at this shop where it's pretty much just Justin and I. Chase is off Fridays and all of the cleaning has been done. All the rats have been done. Everything is kind of down. It's the down day. So that's the day that we, a lot of times will have visitors, or like if Justin has like meetings with people, they'll be on Fridays. And that's also the day that we have a chance to film. If we have a chance, because we don't have a visitor or something like that, that's when we'll kind of try to bulk up on content and maybe film a couple of videos if we can, so that
Gotcha.
it isn't always such a rush. Or we'll film for the Patreon, something like that.
Gotcha.
Sorry, that was long, but that's my
No,
week.
that was great. That was great. Good insight. Do you ever get into like any of the pairings or anything like that? Or
I get interested in them, but in terms of like pairing, like in terms of picking pairings or anything like that, that's total 100% Justin.
100% Justin? I
Um,
figured. I figured.
I go peek in the incubator. I have like, if Dustin's been out of town, like he will call sometimes me or sometimes his son or Chase or whoever's there to like be like, hey, can you pair for me? And then he's somehow like a genius and can just tell you from wherever he is in another part of the country, go to the third row of the fourth rack from the left and get that male 3 columns down and put it with the female on this. Like I don't know how he does it, but yeah, he will
Spends a
tell
lot
you
of
to do
time in that
that.
snake room.
Yeah. So I have paired the snakes up, but it was with very direct instructions, like
Gotcha.
on the phone from Justin.
Michael, thanks for coming out. Welcome to the
What's up,
show.
Michael?
Antoine, what's up, bro? Thanks for coming
What's up,
out.
Antoine? We're gonna be seeing Antoine next Friday, I think. So excited for
Okay.
that.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Like I said, Friday's those visitors' days. That's the day. If you guys want to come, we talk about a Friday.
Come on a Friday. Warfels, what's up? Thanks for coming out. So I imagine balancing like everything you have going on and then everything that's going on at KINOVA is challenging. It presents some challenges. So can you speak to like one of your biggest challenges just kind of in this hobby, in this industry?
Like in terms of my like time management or just anything.
Anything. Time management's a good one. Anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. So one of my biggest challenges is honestly that I am super OCD, and I don't say that in like a flippant way. I'm like diagnosed, I have OCD. And so one of my biggest challenges is that I'm very paranoid about cross contamination with collections. Not that there's any reason to be paranoid, except that I just am. So, like, for me, if I have been in the snake room at all, like, I immediately shower when I get home, wash my hair. I don't touch my animals. Even if I haven't been in the snake room and I've just been in the office, a lot of times I still will immediately shower. Like, so that kind of presents a little bit of an issue for me, because before I can really work with my animals or like relax at my house, I'm always having to like decontaminate myself. But that's my biggest issue, and that's like a me thing. That's just me being paranoid. And likewise, I would hate to bring something back to Canova. So
Right.
I'm always kind of weird about, like, I don't wear the same shoes. Like, I have work shoes and I have home shoes. Same thing for reptile shows. If I go to reptile shows, I have reptile show shoes, and I have like, I don't wear them in my house. I change my clothes. I shower. I wash everything. So that's my biggest struggle. Just working with animals and having animals at my house too, is making sure that
Mhm.
I'm not jeopardizing any of their health by going all these places and seeing all these different animals and different people. Um, but really, no, I find like I said, it helps that I enjoy what I do. So another struggle that I have is just with the nature of the job. like, so most people don't work with reptiles full time. So they have a daytime job. And then when they get home in the afternoon, that's when they go online and look at Morph Market and email us about wanting to buy snakes. So in order to promptly reply, that means we have to work kind of all hours of the day a little bit. So that's a little bit of a struggle sometimes. Just because, kind of like we were saying, when you've been doing something all day long, you don't want to come home and do more of it. You want to like do something different. But
Right.
it's not too
100%.
bad. You just check the email before you go to bed. Make sure, everybody's been answered and nobody's trying to give you money that you're just letting them sit there.
So speak to a time where you feel like you maybe failed or there was an opportunity to improve. Tell us what you learned from it and how you handled
Oh God.
it.
There's so many.
Digging
I
deep.
mean, I feel like all, does it have to be anything about, is it reptiles or anything?
It could
Reptiles?
be reptiles. It could be non-reptile. Just give us a
Oh,
learning
okay. Well,
opportunity at the
first of
end.
all, this is extremely hard for me because I'm practically perfect. So
Practically
I've
perfect. I knew
very
this was a
little to
bad
choose
question.
from. Yeah. No, no, no. I mean, obviously, I feel like every single day there's something that I am like, oh, well, now I know for next time. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of how I try to approach life is like, there's all these little tiny failures throughout the way, and those are the things that teach you. I'm trying to think of like a big, giant, massive failure. I mean, okay, like so just little things like um if you leave somebody hanging on, I've had like people with times where I've like messed up a sale or something like that. Like I've forgotten to put an animal in the inventory correctly, and then it gets sold twice. That actually just happened earlier this week, and that's always a big bummer because you're disappointing somebody
Right.
that thought they had an animal, that now you have to tell them that actually that animal has been living at somebody else's house for 6 months already, and I just didn't type a number on this inventory sheet, so now all
Right.
your hopes and dreams are dashed. And so that's always a struggle. And for me, like the biggest lesson there is just kind of in a way like self-forgiveness. Like you have to be willing to forgive yourself for those little errors and just not let it I mean, as much as it sucks, and it sucks to have to tell somebody that, it sucks to have somebody get mad at you. It sucks to feel like you screwed something up. At the end of the day, like it's a learning opportunity to tell you, okay, well, you know what? Next time, here's how I'm going to adjust my process so that doesn't happen again. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing
Right.
with keeping animals. Like if you like, I started having some animals that like weren't eating well. And I was like, what's going on? And so I changed what I was doing. And I kind of take that pretty much as an approach to all of failures. Is like one of my favorite quotes is, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. So if if something goes wrong, the only thing you can do is change it next time. You know what I mean?
Right.
You
Right.
can't go back and you can't go back and change anything that's already happened. So all you can do is next time change what you did to get a different result. So I honestly try not to think about all my failures because they are plenty. Although I am practically perfect, they are still they are still a plenty. But I just try to move forward from them and take them as an experience to, you know, think of a new way to do something next time so it doesn't happen again, or
Absolutely.
make sure that I am more cognizant because sometimes big mistakes, like selling somebody else a snake that's already sold, is kind of a big mistake, but it's very easy to make if all it takes is not clicking a button. You know what I mean? Like it's
Especially when you're dealing with that many.
a very minor mistake can have a very large impact. You know what I mean? And that's a struggle
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
because if you just have to be, again, like I said, you have to be very cognizant of what you're doing, but then at the same time, you also have to realize you are human. And at the end of the day, it was a very small mistake that was made, although the impact was
Right.
greater.
No,
But we're not perfect, so.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. So speaking kind of on the business side, what are some solid business tips that you can provide folks? Like
Well,
maybe someone's out.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Justin's the business guy. I'm just lucky to sit in a room with him and hear him talk and eavesdrop on his conversations. Um, but you know, the biggest thing that I have learned from working in my position and you know, kind of like I said, absorbing information just from sitting in the room and talking and everything. But I think having forethought into all of your actions and all of your your snake purchases and all of your pairings is really the biggest thing. And I think that's a lot. It's something that a lot of people somehow don't do. They just they want to breed, which is great,
Right.
but having just that little bit of why am I what is my goal with this? Not just I like this snake and I want to breed it, but like what am I ultimately trying to do? If you can pinpoint that down before you buy a snake or before you try to breed a pair or you know pair them up, decide that's what you're going to do. I think a lot of people would come out a lot further ahead and wouldn't spin their wheels as much with if they just had a little bit of that kind of planning and insight into what their ultimate goal was down the line. I think a lot of times we're people in a hurry to get started, which is
Mhm.
great because it takes, you know, you got an initiative and you have a drive and a passion, but stepping back and really planning, I think is really critical.
It's huge.
Yeah, yeah, I just think that really is if you can manage that, you'd be a lot better off because a lot of people don't. And that's a really easy thing to adjust. You know, we don't all have the same circumstances. We don't all have the same things that we're starting off with. You know, you might be starting from here and somebody else is starting from here. But if
Right.
this person doesn't plan well and you plan well, you can get ahead. So
100%. Those are very good points. In fact, we kind of got into it really quickly, but fortunately, doing more research, seeing things like JKRU, which is now Canova U, I learned a
yeah.
lot, and so it kind of made me kind of pause and just kind of rethink through some of the things I was doing, and so I've changed a lot just by listening to those, just by listening to
Mhm.
other folks who've been in the industry much longer than myself, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's there's a lot of things that you don't necessarily think about because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and
Mhm.
just kind of getting that wisdom bestowed upon you is like
Right.
super helpful, and it prevents you from making like mistakes that other people have
Exactly.
made or they've seen other people make a lot, and so
Right.
it's super helpful.
Exactly. 100%. Always be willing. I mean, you know, always be willing to be a student because there's always somebody that knows more, no matter who you are. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be in the same field. And I think, in addition to kind of like I was talking about, like with your pairings or whatever, but like just even just identifying what you want out of whatever you're trying to do. Like, do you just want to have a hobby where you do this? You have a couple clutches a year. It's for fun, for maybe for your kids, for your family, just a fun little thing you do. Or do you want to be somebody that is your job? Like, define what you want first, and then the picture for how to get there becomes clearer. Because I think a lot of people they want to have a successful business, but then they also don't want to think of it like a business. They want to think of it like this fun hobby they do, but you can't if you want to have a successful business, you do have to think about it like a
Think about it
business.
like a business,
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, and so and really the principles of business are the same for all businesses. So if you don't if it's that's something you're not fluent in, and God knows I'm not I don't come from any kind of like businessy type families or anything, but there's so many resources out there, whether it's something like the university series that we have, or you know other people have Patreons, or just a general business classes on YouTube or something. You know what I mean? There's so many
Right.
things that you can take part and absorb with the internet nowadays. There's really no excuse to let yourself continue to be ignorant on things if it matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, then that's a different story. But yeah, like I think
Right.
people need to be okay with figuring out what they want and then admitting that's what they want and then figuring out what they need to do to get there. Because you have to admit that you want it to
100%.
be a business. Yeah.
Right. 100%. And that doesn't mean that you don't care about the animals. That doesn't mean that you don't put the
No.
animals first. That just means you understand what your clear goal is, and you got to come up with a plan to get there, just like you said. So,
Right.
speaking of learning, who's been a big mentor for you in this hobby?
I have a couple. So, I mean, obviously, on the business side of things, and in my current position, I learned everything from Justin. I mean, he's literally walked me through like a toddler every step of the way, like spoon feeding me exactly what to do and what to say. And I like to think that I've done, you know, done okay adapting and kind of taking that on. But on the business side of things, obviously, Justin, another person would be Garrett Hartle of Reach Out Reptiles, who we just had on the channel. He's been,
Okay.
I'm a member of his Patreon, and I'm just a fan of him in general. And I like to call myself a friend of his. Hopefully he would say the same to me. But I appreciate his outlook on the reptiles in general, just the passion that he has. And also, I feel he's a good blend, like you were saying, of you can treat your business like a business and still care about the animals. And I feel that he does a really good job of showing that and exemplifying that, because he very obviously is a great businessman. He's a great salesman. He's a great marketing type personality, very dynamic, charismatic. He's the type of guy who I think could like sell you a used holy shoe. But at the same time, he genuinely has a passion and a care and an interest and love for the animals, and specifically his niche. And he does a great job at building his business, building a community around his business, and building
Mhm.
his animals up as well, and providing them with more and not just doing the bare minimum. So I really, really appreciate that about him. And then in my own keeping, my friend Lori Torini, I don't know if you've heard of her. She is a behaviorist and animal trainer. Originally kind of from like the horse and dog world, but she has been working with snakes for the past 5 or 6 years. And now
Wow.
she has like 100 snakes. And that's what she
Wow.
is kind of focusing most of her time on. And she runs a sanctuary too, an animal sanctuary. But most of her time and interests nowadays are focused on studying and training snakes, and specifically pythons are one of her focuses. So she is an influence to me, just in I'm just interested in animals in general, and so I like to talk to people who know more than me, and she knows more than me about behavior and animal welfare and animal brains and cognition and all of that. And she is showing me that the snakes are way more capable than we give them credit for, and have a lot more potential than has generally been thought in terms of their ability to learn and complete tasks and all of that. So she's a big influence to me
Okay.
on my brain working and turning.
Yeah, I don't know Lori. Shout out to Lori. I think I might have heard you mention her before.
I've talked
Is
about her in videos before. Yeah.
in videos was it along the lines of like choice based handling? Is that
Yes.
so? Speak a little bit more
Yeah.
about choice based handling while we're on that subject.
So, okay. So choice-based handling, I feel like people interpret it the wrong way sometimes, but it's essentially and also disclaimer, learn more about this from Lori, because like I said, she's the expert, not me. But it's essentially kind of the concept of in captive care of animals. When you really think about it, much of what we do is forced upon the animal. You know what I mean? We're forcibly removing them from their tub or cage or whatever, cleaning the tub, forcibly putting them back. We're kind of taking away their ability to choose for themselves what they do. So that can have negative implications. I mean, it just can. So the choice-based handling approach is not to say that you never hold the animal if it's not their choice, but it's the idea that you facilitate a relationship with your animal over time where
Mhm.
they can choose to interact with you. So for me, what that means is that I generally don't handle my snakes for pleasure. Pleasure maybe was a weird word. I don't handle my snakes for fun, unless
I understand what you mean.
typically, um, unless they are showing me that they are in the mood to be handled, in terms
What are
of
some of
they
those
come to
signs you're
the
looking for?
so for my animals, because I have kind of in a way trained them to do this, they will come to the door and wait by the door. They will, if they are pacing around their enclosure, very active in their enclosure, that's a signal that they're active. And so all it really entails is you open the door. And if they come out, they come out. And if they come out and they can climb onto a snake hook, then climb on your arm, then that's great. They're choosing to come and interact with you, rather than me in the middle of the day opening my cage, lifting up the hide, taking my snake out, just disrupting their whole environment, because if you think about it, like this is anthropomorphizing, but bear with me here. It's if I was in bed at noon, taking a nap or something, and somebody walked in and like ripped me out of bed, I'm not gonna like really enjoy that person. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right.
gonna be like, hey, this like I was chill, I was fine, I was doing my own thing, and then you're just cramping my vibe here. So that's essentially the concept. The way that you facilitate it is over time, as I said. So, for instance, if I see a snake is out cruising around their cage, I just open the door and then I just sit there. And they may not do anything. They may just cruise around their cage. They may go turn the other way. Over time, the more that I do that, the snake will come investigate the door and be like, huh, this door's open. Okay, what does that mean? But then they may go back in their cage and just do what they were doing before. The next time, maybe the snake comes and they sit just like on the threshold, like halfway in, halfway out, and they just sit there. And then they go back in their cage. And then maybe the next time they're like, okay, you know what? What's outside the cage? They actually come out. Then the next time, so it just builds and builds and builds until if you have a snake that is inclined to want to interact, they will start behaving. They learn that if they start moving around, you'll open the door and they can come out.
Gotcha.
And they'll climb out onto you. And yeah, so that's really all it is. But again, that's not to say that you don't, if you have to handle for maintenance or something, that's a completely different thing. I use this for like me, like if I wanted to get a snake out to sit on the couch with or something, I will wait for a snake to show me that it's in the mood, But yeah, like Warful's saying, carpet pythons never want to go back in. Yeah, a lot of this, that's the thing is, if you get a snake that is inclined to want to be out, like a lot of the retics are that way, they won't like they're not happy to be put back in. They would rather just be roaming around. And I have my both of my retics, they do this every single night. They would come out every single night if I had the time and could let them. And they're in their cage making a bunch of noise, like falling off things because they're roaming around trying to get my attention. Yeah. But then again, I have other snakes that literally never show any inclination, and they just are not totally content to just chill in their cage, and that's fine. So it just depends on the snake and their personality and their kind of individual differences.
So for those that don't want to really come out, you just handle them only when needed.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're all still tame. I mean, none of them are to where I can't handle them. But yeah, I don't force the handling. I usually do, like, if I need to handle them for something, I use that as an opportunity to work with them a little bit and make sure they stay desensitized. But yeah, I don't, if they don't want to be held, I don't want to hold them. You know what I mean? Like, I have other snakes that enjoy me holding them seemingly. I mean,
so why force it?
Right. Yeah. So why force it on somebody that's just going to hate me? You know what I mean?
Here she comes again.
Yeah. Damn it. Can't leave me alone.
So it sounds like Lori's a really good person to learn from. Are there any more? Are there other people that you think are like good people to follow on YouTube and learn from, or any good books?
Said, yeah. So Justin, obviously, and I don't just say that because I work for him. I think he's got and I make the videos. I think his channel is great. No, but I do think. I mean, I think if you're interested in ball python genetics, for sure, Justin is kind of the guy. If you're interested in the ball python breeding stuff, definitely check out our Patreon. Lori, if you're interested in the behavior, Lori Torini, behavior education. If you're interested in kind of a combination of those two things, but with reticulated pythons, then Garrett of Reach Our Reptiles. I'm trying to think who else I even watch. I watch a lot of books. I love the complete series. So like the complete carpet python, the complete boa constrictor, the complete children's python, all of those. I really, really love those. I think that I like to read them about snakes I don't even have.
I'm ready for Nick to drop this more complete.
I'm super ready, especially hearing all of them talk about how much longer it is and how much more detailed. I can't wait. I mean, I've read the.
I can't say I'm patiently waiting either. I'm just like, when is it coming out?
So yeah. Yeah, so definitely I love the more complete series. And then also the VPI books, the books from Tracy and Dave Barker. Those are great. The Pythons of the World series are really awesome. There's a ton of good books, and I'm mostly a snake person, so I'm sure there's tons of amazing lizard books. And then there's also tons of great like herping books and like field guides, which I'm not. I would love to get into that one day. I haven't really gotten into that as of yet, but I'm sure there's tons of great stuff there too, which I can't really speak to.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I got some random questions for you. So if you could
Let's do
live
it.
anywhere in the world, where would that place be and why?
Rome.
Rome? Why is that?
It's because I went to Rome one time and I really loved it. It was great. I walked everywhere. The weather was beautiful. The people were also beautiful. The food was delicious. I ate pasta every day and I lost weight
Nice.
somehow because everything was healthy. Like everything was like fresh made. And I walked so much. So it was like if I ate pasta every day in America, I would like be on like my 600-pound life. But in Rome, I was like somehow getting fit and eating pasta. It was a dream. Um, yeah, I loved the culture there. I loved the European vibe. Um, we left Rome being like, if we maybe we shouldn't live in America was basically our feelings. We're like, Europe is kind of great. But yeah,
Okay, I
so
can do
would
this.
definitely love to go back there.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So if you could have coffee with one historical figure, who would that
Ooh,
person be and why?
ooh, okay. This is tough.
Digging deep, digging deep.
Historical. God, this is hard. I'm gonna go with Carrie Fisher. She's not really historical, but she is dead. So I guess that counts as historical. Um because I'm a really big fan of her, like obviously Star Wars, but like her writing, she's written some books that are really funny. She's a great sense of humor type person. And I just think she would be a blast to actually talk to. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carrie Fisher.
Awesome. That's a good pick. Good pick. So what was your favorite subject in school?
I was that freak that liked everything.
You liked everything.
Um, favorite, probably like language arts. I like to write, I like poetry.
Okay.
I
Okay.
am also a songwriter. That's what I told you I was a dance and music teacher. I have a band and I write songs. Actually, my degree is in music business. So yeah, I would say language arts. I like writing. I like poetry.
Yeah, give us a little bit of background. That was actually one of the questions on there because I saw that you were a songwriter and so you were into music. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I started doing that when I was like a kid. Like my mom, I was in competitions and stuff and on television shows and stuff when I was like 3 years old doing singing. My mom put me in piano when I was like 4 or 5. I just grew up doing music, and I went to a performing arts high school. I was a vocal major. I studied voice in college. I got a music business degree. I wrote my first song when I was like 6. Yeah, so it's just really something that I always have done and always been interested in. And it's really what ultimately, like, if I had to say, like, my dream of all dreams, that would have been to be a full-time musician. But
Mhm.
it's it's not for the faint of heart. It's a hard gig to do, you know what I mean? Full time. You have to be
Right.
okay with having literally like living in a van. So so I do it on the side now and I still play. I played just last weekend. I have a little girl. I have a female, a friend of mine that plays with me. And yeah, we've been working on a song in the studio. So we have a song coming out next, hopefully this upcoming spring we'll get it finished. The problem is we're always slow at doing things because we all have regular jobs and stuff.
Right.
But if you do want to check out my music, you can check it out. We're called The Royal Turns, at The Royal Turns on Instagram. We have stuff on YouTube, although a lot of the YouTube stuff's a little old now. But yeah, I love it. I mean, that's my passion deep in
It's your
my
passion.
soul. Yeah, is the music. But yeah, it's just hard to do.
So the royal turns.
The royal turns, like royal, like Queen Elizabeth turns, like turning around.
Okay. So how'd you guys come up with that name?
So we were fighting over what the name would be, and my I went to visit my grandma, and she had a book about birds on her coffee table, and I opened it up, and there was a page about this bird, kind of like a I don't even remember what it looked like now, but it was called a royal tern, but it was a tern, Tern. And I
Mhm.
thought, "Oh, well, that'd be a cool name. You just change it to turns, like the word turns. So it's
Right.
kind of like a Beatles thing, like you take an animal and you make it a different word, you know what I mean? Make it a different name. And that was it. I said, this is what it's going to be because nobody else could agree on anything. And that's what it is.
That's cool. Our guest last week, Gershon Porter from GP Snakes, we kind of
Yeah.
unofficially found out that he does music too, and so maybe you
Oh,
want us to
nice.
collab one day.
There's a lot of crossover between musicians and reptile people. I think it's just like a general outcast type thing. Like
The
everybody's
Brassman Reptiles.
yeah, Brassman, Eric Burke from Python Radio is like an amazing guitarist. Kevin from Nerd is a guitarist, has a band. Lots of people, lots of people. I know Ralph Polinsky's a drummer. Yeah, a lot of people are in music.
Cool. All right. So if you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about?
Um, what would I write about if I had to write a book tomorrow? Tricky. I don't feel qualified to write any books, but that being said, I would probably write like about my sister. She has always been really inspirational to me. She has a genetic disorder called Apert syndrome.
Mhm.
And so she's always been a big she's real I mean, she's my best friend, one of my best friends. I have two sisters. I can't say she's my best friend. I have two best friends. Um
Don't want to start any
but yeah,
trouble.
so I would write about her, just the experience of growing up with a sister with special needs and how that shaped me as a person and what I've learned from it and kind of like the life lessons that come along with it. Because I definitely think that probably of all the things that, so many things happen to us in life and they all affect us in some way. But I think if I just think one thing that affected me the most and kind of shaped who I am, it's probably that having her as my sister. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Antoine says he used to be a battle rapper. Does that count?
Antoine, do you want to do a feature on my new single? I can bring my little recording thing to work on next Friday.
All right. So, what's one question that you wished I would have asked you, and how would you have answered it?
Um, I feel like you did a pretty good job spanning a lot of topics. I would say I wish that you would have asked me what my dream for my reptile, like what my dream collection looked like.
And what does
And
that look like?
now I will tell you what my dream collection looks like. My dream collection is a representative pair of all Australian python species,
Nice.
as well as all localities of retics, super dwarf retics, dwarf and super dwarf retics, as well as a pair of Boland's pythons.
Nice. Nice.
And then I think
Would
I'd
you
be
breed
happy.
every pair? Would you breed every pair?
I would just keep up. I would open up a zoo.
Keep them?
I would have my reptile dream that I think I would really love would be to um and I love what I'm doing now and I love doing YouTube and all that, but having I love education. I taught dance and stuff. So I would love to have like a reptarium type thing with just amazing animals. I would love to do what I think would be really cool would to do a reptarium of sorts, but it's all pythons. It's like every species of python. You can go to this one place
Mhm.
and see every species of python. I think it'd be really cool. I don't know if anybody would come. Maybe like 3 people would be interested, but
That
I would
sounds
like
really
to go.
cool.
I would
I'd
love to go
come.
there every day and look at all the pythons from all over the world.
That sounds pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I'd definitely
But
come.
yeah, thank you.
You
Well,
definitely get a lot of
I'll write your name down for first on the list for 25 years
Put
from
me in the
now.
VIP list.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all the questions I had for you. And I
Awesome. We
don't
made it
think there's
through.
any more. Yeah. So tell everybody where they can find you, and I will flash it across the screen
For
here.
sure. You
And
guys
feel
can
free
find
to.
me on Instagram at Girl with Scales, on YouTube, Girl with Scales. I also have a Facebook, but it's pretty much just Instagram posting to Facebook. So, but that's if you want to follow me there, you're welcome to. It's also Girl with Scales. Um, yeah, you can also email me if you want to buy a snake from Justin. I can give you the hookup on that. So you can email me at summer@KINOVAReptiles.com. And yeah, you can also, if you want to friend me on Facebook, as long as you're not a creep and you're not going to stalk me. Summer Grace Mitchell is my Facebook name. You can find me, and we can chat about reptiles. So yeah.
Cool. Well, Summer, it was great speaking with you tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're super busy. You probably got to hop off and answer some
I gotta
emails
edit
about
that video.
snakes. Yeah, I promise I'm not in the inbox. You got to edit the video.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming out tonight. It was great speaking with you. Great getting to know you a little bit better. And thanks to
Yeah.
everyone out there in the audience. Thanks for all your support. Feel free, if you're not already, to follow us everywhere at Herp Collectors. I look forward to seeing you again on next week's episode. Thank you. Thank you all
Awesome.
for
Thank you
coming
so much
out.
for
Be
having
blessed.
me.
Good night. No problem.
See ya.
Bye bye.